Hello, this is Darth Helmet. This is the first time I'm making a video and a last Epoch video. I usually just follow guides when I play, but this time around I've been inspired to try to make some builds. They're not good builds, I will give you that up front. I'm not here to give you your top tier league starter. What I am here for is to make stupid builds, and then just for ideas. I'd honestly love to see someone try to make one of these work and then tell me a better version of it. But I'm going to be trying at least one of these depending on what kind of stuff I drop. And hopefully it's not complete trash, but there you go. So I'm just going to go through some of them. These are all going to be Sentinel builds. I'm really interested in Sentinel after the rework, especially Forge Guard, but not all of them are necessarily going to be Forge Guard, as you'll see. In fact, this first one is this one? Oh, I mean, this one's Forge Guard, but you'll see. So, going through my ideas, for some of them I have like multiple variants of the same idea. We'll do that. So this first one, where's the other one? Okay, I understand now. Okay, not the first one, Forge Guard. So the first pair of ideas is based around that. As you might not know, there's a new set affix crafting thing. You can put the sets, which are previously things that were cool but not very strong, onto regular items now. I'm going to be using that a lot in my builds, I think. I'm not sure how soon I'm going to actually be able to get these crafted items, because you need to find the sets, you need to shatter them at these special woven echoes, and then you need to be able to craft it onto something. But we'll see. I might have to use the actual set item for a little while. But so this one, there's the Shattered Lands set, which gives you increased melee cold based on your health regen. I really like the idea of stacking up a bunch of health regen, and I know there are better builds with this on Primalist and maybe Mage, but I just, for whatever reason, thought it would be really cool to try it on Sentinel. I don't know, we're tanky class, we can use okay, wait, this one isn't using a shield, but you get the idea. I don't know. There are things that give us regen. That's about the extent of the idea. So this one is a paladin. We're using the Shattered Land set affixes. Why is this fire damage? This should probably be something else, but whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is, you can craft it onto a real item of your choosing. But you run the Shattered Land set, then you want to be getting health regen somehow. And have we got the new, great way of getting health regen? They've also added a bunch of... They've buffed up health regen modifiers. They've added new ones. There's a health and health regen modifier, but the specific thing I'm going for I'm probably going to play this on a lot of builds if I can, is this Last Bear set. The Last Bear set, it's all about stacking strength. And in particular, the thing we care about is on the gloves, but you can run either the 2 or 3 piece set, because it's also going to benefit you a lot in the strength department. But we care about this. Increased health regen per point of strength. And then the physical melee, I guess, is a thing, but it's not really as relevant because we're trying to do cold damage. But so you get the increased health regen. For stacking strength, you get endurance threshold for stacking strength, and if you decide to play the third piece of the set, then you also get plus 30 strength. I have the chest here as the set. This is almost certainly wrong. I'm probably just going to use a real chest piece and then maybe craft the thing onto it. The only reason I have it like this is because I sort of liked the idea of the health regen if you've stunned an enemy recently, and that is the set. That is not the set affix that you get if you craft on. You get the physical damage leech this health, which is not really what we're about. That said, not using a Sentinel base that gives you 700 armor and like damage over time reduction seems wrong. So we'll see. But so we stack up a bunch of strength. We get the endurance. We get the regen. The regen becomes increased melee cold. We also run, I didn't initially have this, but some people suggested I needed the flat cold. I actually initially thought for some reason that this was flat melee cold, but it is not. It is increased, so that's also why this is probably not great, because obviously we don't have a cold skill in Sentinel, so we don't get anything that by default gets flat cold damage. We have to add our own. So for now, for this, it's just we also wield another. Ignore most of the text. It's just we're using this because it says cold melee damage, and then we add some with LP. There's a new change this season where you can guarantee at least one mod on a legendary, so it should be easier to get at least one mod of your choosing on, various legendaries. So I don't think it's as unrealistic to end up with, like, say, oh, I need one with melee cold's damage. So we'll see. But beyond that, I mean, the rest of the build is sort of... Oh, I guess I'll go into the actual, like, skills and passives. So the skill-wise, I ended up settling on Judgment, mostly because it gives you increased health regen. Is this a good idea? Oh, and surprisingly, a lot of mods that are just generic more multipliers. Like, this is a more multiplier if you have Ignite on them, so we'll run just some Ignite. This is a more multiplier if you can, actually spend mana on it. This is irrelevant. This is another more multiplier. I have it casting Smite mostly just because Smite can give you health regen. You should sense a theme here. It also gives us some other utility, like it gives cleanse, it gives some flat damage, but it's fire, so it's not as relevant. Well, okay, it's relevant because this is fire, Judgment is fire, but ignore that, we're doing cold stuff. And then attack speed. And then I just have Vengeance here because I probably cannot sustain the just using Judgment on its own. That's a lot of mana. So we just have Vengeance here. We take the things that like this gives us global more damage, so it'll buff up our Judgment. We get we just take some utility, like this stuff gives us defenses when we're using it. I convert it, we get some armor shred and phys res shred. I convert it to fire exactly because of us wanting to use this crystal sword. It doesn't actually show what the base is. The base name here is once you change it to a set item, but it gives us the elemental melee damage and elemental melee attack speed, so if it's fire, it'll get that. And then obviously Judgment is already a fire skill. Holy Aura also gives us some regens somewhere. Yeah, here, health regen and other stuff, like we get resistances and endurance threshold, crit damage, crit chance, and crit damage. Symbols of Hope is also just there because it gives us health regen and some other buffs. Really, one of the problems I've run into when I was filling out these various skills is that there's not like a whole lot of like variation in support skills for Sentinel, I think. especially now that Volatile Reversal is gone. I don't miss it, but like a lot of the skill builds are going to end up using Symbols of Hope as support. I didn't have it here. I had it initially here, but then I replaced it with Vengeance and Smite at someone's suggestion. But Healing Hands is also one of those things you can run because it you can proc it for free on melee attacks. Well, for free. It costs mana, but then you do the minus mana. So this is another one that you can just sort of like, oh, it's passive extra stuff you get. Obviously, it could, if when we convert it to melee, it can carry the cold damage that we're going to be doing. Not necessarily well, but you know, it is what it is. But yeah, so a lot of them are going to use Symbols of Hope. A lot of them are going to use Healing Hands. If we're playing Forge Guard, sometimes I'll use Ring of Shields. That's another good one if you're running a shield, because you can like auto proc it in Forge Guard, and it just gives you stuff we like armor and block chance and whatever. So, and then passives, like the main reason we dip a little into Forge Guard because we get some health regen here and strength, but then mostly we're playing Paladin because regen. This is health regen. This is health regen. Health regen per attunement, so we're also going to want to stack some attunement. Like, we're going to be stacking strength and attunement, both of which buff up judgment, and both of which are going to be giving us health regen. Also just take this because if we're stacking attunement, because we're going to have a bunch of block. Wait, no, this is from an earlier version of the build when I wasn't dual wielding. This shouldn't be here anymore. I don't know where I'd put it instead, but if we had block chance, this would be good to help us try to sustain, but we're not anymore. But and then more health regen from Symbols of Hope. So that was the idea with Paladin. You can get a decent amount of HP regen, scaling HP regen with the attunement stacking. It's like a little question. Both of these are going to be questionable because of the lack of like cold damage support, but whatever. So that's that idea. The next one is also Shattered Lance, but we're doing Forge Guard, and this one is dumber. So we're doing like most of the same stuff. We're doing Last Bear's Lament, Last Bear set. We're doing Shattered Lands, but the main difference here is this: Morning Frost. This is another solution to our lack of flat cold damage. It gives us flat cold damage to attacks and spells per point of dex. Cool. No pun intended. So what we end up doing is we're going to use Rive and weapon special. Like, this is exactly why I was doing this. It's still probably bad, but Rive, if you are using a sword, gives you flat fizz damage per dexterity. Obviously, the flat fizz damage isn't going to be multiplied by our cold, so it's like, But I was looking for something to do with this node because it was kind of confusing me what its purpose was. And if we're already running the dex to get the flat melee cold, I guess it's just sort of free. Like, okay, we take some more damage here and then we take this for 1 point. Like, that seems fine if that's what we're doing. And then Rive is like a nice skill to use in general. The rest of the tree I have no idea about. Like, I've been doing this. Anytime I've played Rive before, I've seen people just do the no third strike thing, but I don't know if that's correct. Notably, though, that build that I was playing was for proccing Healing Hands, and Healing Hands was doing the primary damage. So maybe if I'm doing Rive as my primary damage, maybe it's supposed to be not that. But like I said, I don't actually know. And then we do the other stuff. We've got Healing Hands, we've got Symbols of Hope, we've got Smite proccing, which is slightly more than just utility in this, technically, because the boots also give us spell damage. So it's going to add to this as well. Ring of Shields giving us... Actually, Ring of Shields here I'm not actually using for the block stuff, although maybe I'll change that. Because initially this was also going to be dual wield until I thought of the... Or until I realized the bigger issue, which is this obviously also reduces fizz and cold res per point. And I figured, like, we're already going to be getting a lot of flat melee, or we're already going to be getting the flat cold damage. So maybe running the offhand to get even more is, like, unnecessary. And then we need some way to get resistances. We're desperate for resistances, specifically cold and fizz. So just running a shield so we're tankier, and then this can also give us some fizz res. And we can craft resistances onto it. Probably necessary. What was it? Oh, in terms of passives, the main thing that we're interested in... Why did I do this? Oh, these were just some other... Oh, right. Okay, the important passives here. Wait, why didn't I take more points into this? I should have taken more points into this. Although, I guess it being percent... health regen maybe makes it a little bit less good, just because we're already getting percent health regen per strength and attunement from our passive, and not attunement here, but from the last bear set. So I guess maybe you don't need this as much, and obviously strength turns into health regen at a lower rate, but then obviously you're also getting strength. I guess this is vitality for health. I don't know. This could be changed. With all of these builds, I don't know what the numbers are that make things good, so you could probably optimize the skill trees. But the important thing here is Axe Thrower, chance to throw an axe on hit. I guess it's also getting the cold damage, but that's not why we're doing it. We're literally just doing it so that we can proc smites through the smite idol, the chance to cast smite on hit with throwing attacks. So we can have smites without actually having to cast it. And then the other relevant thing here is, we get regen, but then the relevant thing is this. Iron Reflexes. We get dex, we get reduced bonus damage taken from crits, and which is important because if we're not using as Citadel boots, then we're missing a source of it. And then the important thing is we get dodge rating to armor. So all that dex we're stacking becomes armor. We also multiply it by the strength that we're stacking. Cool. So that's that idea. And then some other things that are notable is, like, there's some Weaver idols that give us health regen. So that's nice. We'll try to use that. Okay, next one. So this is a pair of... Here, I'm going to switch the order. This is a pair of builds that is based on one very specific dumb affix idea. So one of the... This isn't the base idol affix. This is... whenever you complete a tomb or cemetery for the new content, the Weaver content, you get an opportunity to enchant your idols with special affixes. And, there's some interesting ones here. This one caught my eye just because it's so weirdly specific. You get flat spell damage while using a shield and flat spell damage while wielding a two-handed axe. Now, a normal person would look at this and say, the intention here is for you to, for it to just be available to two different kinds of builds. Either you're playing two-hand with a two-handed axe, or you're playing a shield build. And I'm, not a normal person, so I'm just like, what if I did both? Also, I wasn't sure... For a little while, I wasn't sure how to approach this build, because I was just looking at unique axes. And they're really... Or unique two-handed axes, and they're really aren't any that make a lot of sense for like a spell damage based thing. Yeah, like none that made any sense to me. But the breakthrough was the just looking at the regular bases. There is the Obsidian Axe, which gives just generic increased fizz damage. So, okay, now we have a way to scale both a melee attack and a spell. And then the other one for a fire version is Radiant Axe. You get fire penetration, so a way to scale both a melee attack and a spell. And so, okay, first the Fizz version. The Fizz version is using Rive, specifically for this node, Projections of War. Rive's first strike consumes mana to release a wave of energy that passes through enemies. This is a physical spell strength. So we're going to be doing strength stuff. We get the benefit of the spell damage, and we get and we benefit from stacking physical damage. So we do, in this case, I know that we do the skip the third strike because this only procs on the second or on the first strike. So we want to do that as much as possible. So we get attack speed to do that as much as possible. And then the rest of the tree is a little bit like, I don't know, like, do I really, Foe Cleaver, I guess, is good because we're using a two-handed weapon. So we get bonus stats from the weapon. And then we get this extra armor stacking. The rest, I don't know for sure. Like, we probably do this stuff, but, like, pulling in enemies is nice, but I don't know. Like, maybe we want crit chance but we're also doing spell damage, so I guess the crit chance isn't necessarily good for... I assume this doesn't work, but I don't know. I know, like, more damage will help this, but I don't know about, like, crit chance and stuff. I could be wrong, though. And then we have Smite proccing in there, the same kind of thing with Axe Throw proccing with the Idol. But I'm less convinced. Like, it's another spell proc, it'll get its flat damage, but if we're stacking up a bunch of increased fizz damage, then it's not gonna actually get like that much increased damage, but whatever, it still gives us health regen and cleanse and stuff like that, and some blind chance, but whatever. The rest I didn't bother to fill out, but you can imagine this would be, the usual cast of support skills. As far as passives go, same kind of thing with the axe throws and stuff. We have to put in a time and faith at least a little bit for like sustaining the procs of specifically for the energy wave, it consumes 4 mana, so this gives us back 4 mana. Maybe if I'm also doing the smites, I need a little bit more than this, but whatever. In Forge Guard, obviously, this is our first time we're talking about the new Forge Master's Might. Probably should have started with that. You can use this to be able to wield a two-handed weapon with a shield. Awesome. Now we can be tanky and have access to some interesting two-handed weapon stuff. Like, we wouldn't be able to do this build if we couldn't wield both a shield and the two-handed weapon. I mean, we could, but then we wouldn't be doing the silly thing. We also get stuff like crit chance with a two-handed weapon and crit multi per strength. So if we're stacking strength, we get a bunch, and we're using a two-handed weapon. Cool. We obviously get to use like block chance stuff. We get to use like less damage taken with a shield. We get to, assuming I put in Ring of Shields, we get to proc this for free. Oh, this is also another cool thing with playing Forge Master's Might. Master of Arms, normally it's like, oh, we'll give you a bonus specific to the setup you're doing. So dual wield gets stuff, two-handed weapons get stuff, shields get stuff. but we're using a two-handed weapon and a shield. So we get both the strength, the frailty chance, and the reduced bonus damage taken from crits with a shield. Cool. I don't know how this is going to work. And it does mean that maybe we don't have to use, like, say, the helmet or the boots or something. In this case, I've opted for a different helmet because it gives more increased fizz. Oh yeah, there's also a shield that gives generic increased fizz damage. One thing I also think could be a thing is Stygian's Reprisal is also this physical base, and then we get some free shield throw procs. Is that good? I mean, at the very least, it'd be procking our smites more, and it's fizz, which we're going to be scaling up. And obviously it increases with strength. The only thing it's not really getting as benefits from is the spell damage, but whatever. Okay, and then the fire variant. You use the Radiant Axe. There's this Raya's Light for 75% increased fire damage. We also, for both of these, I just have the Last Bear stuff. Honestly, I'm not sure exactly. For any of the Forge Guard's Might things, there's basically two ways you can go, I think. One is the Last Bear stuff. Like, I think that's just something you should always consider for any strength stacking build. But fundamentally going to be kind of at least the regen part is going to be incompatible with Titan's Heart, which is you take less damage if you use a two-handed melee weapon, which is like obviously very good if we're using a two-handed weapon. I wouldn't be surprised if it's just correct to use this for most of the Forge Master's Might builds and then just build Leech or like healing effectiveness with Healing Hands or something, but I don't know. I just like the regen idea. Maybe I'm overvaluing that, but I also just sort of have the idea of maybe I get to use Wall of Nothing plus Vessel Strife for turn regen into ward, and then Endurance Threshold gets ward decay. That might be a thing for like a hybrid health and ward setup, but we'll see. It might not be good enough without int, and like you could, not in a Forge Master's Might build, but you could run Cleaver Solution. Okay, Cleaver Solution. This item, your intelligence is equal to your strength, so it's a way to convert your. It's a way to get both the strength scaling and then also int for ward retention for free, basically. But it's not part of this build because it's not Forge Master's Might. Maybe this setup only makes sense if you're doing Cleaver Solution, but I do think this plus Last Bear stuff is going to be pretty cool. Like, I didn't think of this when I was doing my... Oh, I couldn't, though. I couldn't because I need the relic slot for Shattered Lands, but... Yeah, I don't. There's probably some cool. Oh, and Cleaver Solution. I need. Okay, so I can't do it for this unless I dual wielded, and then one weapon was that, and one weapon was the Cleaver Solution. But whatever. So that's. Oh, all right. So just to finish off with the spell thing. Skill wise, I don't really know the best option for this. I think Warpath makes some sense because you can convert it to fire. And then it procs smites, and smites are fire, so this makes more sense since we're doing the fire pen stuff. You also get to run this mana per second, or mana per 3 seconds while wielding a two-handed weapon, so the mana sustain should be more reasonable. That's the general idea. Okay, next up. This one, I'm like... really not sure about, but I like the idea. I like the potential synergy. I just don't know if it actually makes sense with the skills I have available. But the basic idea is, okay, what kind of cool weapon and shield combos can we do, right? What is more interesting, more interesting way to use Forge Master's Might that isn't just I get to run a two-handed build with a shield, or I get to turn my one-handed shield build into something which does more damage with a two-hander. This is one of those potentially interesting things. World Splitter scales up an attack based on a melee attack based on the mana cost. So you get melee area, you get crit chance, and you get crit multi. And then the build I've seen used with this is a Void Knight. You play a Racing Strike, it consumes a lot of mana, and then you have a way to get your mana back through the Void Knight tree. We're not doing that. We're in Forge Guard. And then Horns of Ukiros. We get increased melee damage, but the line we're interested in here is increased mana cost. So we get to make our skills cost more mana, which makes them better for World Splitter. It's a cool idea. I don't know why this one I actually did put Titanheart in. I think because I didn't know if I was going to get to do the Last Bear stuff, because I'm running... This is obviously a really endgame option, but Seeds of Echidra or like mana... using your mana to absorb the damage. But I don't know. So... Skill-wise, this is where I kind of hit a brick wall, because it turns out Forge Guard isn't that good at buffing up like any skill with like really high mana. Like comparing things, a Racing Strike starts out at 30 mana, but then you can do... I don't think you take this, but this is the relevant one. You consume 60 mana per additional echo, and you can put 3 points into this. So you consume an extra 180 mana. That's huge. Use this. Has cooldown recover, but and this. So you can get a ridiculous mana cost on a Racing Strike. So that's why that build is pretty cool. Also, flat void damage. So like obviously that's what it's intended to be used for. We're not doing that though. So our problems with Forge Guard are like mana costs. Like the things that I was looking at that have the most mana cost are like Shield Rush. You can get this. Oh wait, no, that's not. What am I looking for? Unfortunately, you have to take mana efficiency if you want the no cooldown stuff. But here, this gives us mana cost, this gives us mana cost, this gives us mana cost. Unfortunately, it's kind of all very awkward. Like, we don't, like, this is, like, we don't really need the no longer requires a shield, so that's a little wasted. Although converting it to void is good, so then the void damage is actually relevant. But we don't need the void beams because we're not doing spell stuff, and so yeah, it's kind of inefficient. But it costs 50 mana base, and then you can make it cost even more. So maybe. And then Smelter's Wrath is the other big one. It costs 30 mana base, and you can make it cost another 10 mana. But you have to, or no, not 10, 15. 10, 25 mana, so we can make this cost 55 mana. But of course, that's kind of a far cry from the 200 plus mana cost that we can get on a Racing Strike, so it's really not as good. Also, in terms of what this benefits from, it doesn't get more area, it gets faster charging speed, which is good in and of itself. Like, obviously being able to charge this faster is really nice. So we'll see. Actually, when I briefly tried out, I obviously wasn't using the shield, but on live at the moment, I tried just putting on the World Splitter on my Forge Guard just to see how it changes this, and it does actually increase the speed by quite a bit, but we'll see. And that's without the cost increase from the shield. But this, right, Burning Patch, we're not as interested in this because we care about the melee damage. So it's like a little inefficient to have to be taking that. This is fine. This just gives the Nova instead of a cone. The one other skill thing that I was maybe thinking about is like Forge Strike starts out at 25 base mana. We can make it 35 with Beneath the Solarium, and this is like a slightly less clunky skill, I guess, because we can just hit things. We don't have to like charge it up or like do weird shield rush things where we move around. This is the only thing, right? And the important thing here is we would be taking the no cooldown thing anyway, right? So it's like less inefficient than the other two. It's just we also can't buff up the mana as much. And then I haven't filled out the rest obviously I haven't filled out the rest. I didn't even have it in the planner. But I don't know, you just take some more damage nodes after that. It's got some decent generic more damage multipliers. So that's that idea. Obviously support skills should be similar. Skill tree wise, dipped a bit into Void Knight to get the leech stuff because we're doing leech instead of regen. Then block chance stuff, and right, that's the other reason to do this on Forge Guard. Crushing blows. 1 more damage per mana cost for throwing your melee attacks per damage per mana cost. So we get the World Splitter stuff, we get the Crushing Blow stuff, and now we have a way to increase the cost by more because of the shield, because of Forge Master's Might. But again, don't read too much into the skill tree. Most of it is me just sort of randomly filling stuff out. But attunement stacking is probably also good, so we get more mana. We're probably also going to need to run one of the builders, the Rive Vengeance or like Multi-Strike would be the options, I guess, just so that we can get our mana back after using it all. Okay, next idea. And this one the one I am most interested in. This is the one that I'm most likely to actually start playing early on in the league. The idea is, once again, we're playing Forge Guard, we're playing around Forge Master's Might for a 2-hand and a shield. And this one actually feels like it's got a lot of cool synergy going on. This is the most plausible build, I think, for maybe there's something to this, even if it's less good than other options. I've seen someone running this weapon with dot setups. Maybe that'll be better, I don't know, but it's not what I'm doing. So the idea here is we're using Phalanx, which gives us more damage with Vengeance per 10% block chance. It gives us block chance while we're riposting. So just hopefully we're attacking enough that we're always getting that block chance. And then block effectiveness. And then chance to use a javelin when you riposte. I guess just to quickly explain, Vengeance, it's a skill. It's a melee skill. It doesn't cost any mana, so you can just spam this. And then it's got a mechanic riposte that just... the next hit you take will take less. You'll take less damage, and then do a retaliation. Cool. It's a little less damage reduction if you want the additional riposte, but I think we do want that so that we can riposte more, because that's how we throw our javelins. And it gives us some other nice things, like you can get even less damage taken. You can get global more damage. And then the other stuff I don't really know about as much, just some more damage here, and it's better when you've blocked or parried recently, so we're going to be blocking a lot. The rest I'm less sure of. I'm pretty sure we want attack speed so that we can actually be riposting, often enough. One of the downsides of Forge Master's Might is you get less attack speed, so we kind of need to make up for that. Like, we're already using a slower weapon because it's two-handed, and then we're getting less attack speed. So anything we can do to fix that is probably good. But yeah, so we use Javelin, or we use Vengeance. That procs Javelin. I actually learned recently that Javelin is going to be free when procced from this weapon. It apparently wasn't intended initially, but they're going to leave it this way for this patch. So we actually don't need this minus mana cost. We can just put those points somewhere else. I'm sure there's like some other place where I can just get more to like, here's some... Oh, no, I don't like the... Well, we are going to probably be standing still sometimes when we're hitting things. So sure, we can put points into this, whatever. But we get to take some things like Siege Barrage that increases mana cost but gives us more javelins. This increases mana cost, more javelins. This we get to use because we're not attacking with it directly, so the minus attack speed doesn't matter here. But then here's the big brain part of this, because you can already just make a build that's like Phalanx plus Vengeance, or Phalanx, Vengeance, Javelin. The cool other synergy is Stygian's Reprisal. This has been in the game since 1.0 or maybe 1.1, I don't remember. But it lets you... it does two relevant things. One, it lets you retaliate with a shield throw on block. So we're going to be blocking a lot. We're going to want to block a lot. And... so we get to retaliate with, like, the whole idea of the build is just retaliation stuff. So we're going to be retaliating with javelins, and we're going to be retaliating with shield throws. And Vengeance retaliates itself. And then the other part of this is the +1 throwing damage for shield throw per 10 damage reflected to attackers. So this is how we'll get our flat damage on the shield throw. Notably, Javelin already gets flat damage just by using a melee weapon because we're using a spear. It gets 50% of the normal value of the melee weapon, so there's our flat for Javelin. Obviously, Vengeance is already a melee attack, so it gets damage from our weapon. I don't know yet if I want to actually put the retaliation mod on my gear. The thing that will give us some, though, is Thornmail. Thornmail, if you it gives us some just baseline, but if you take the 5 points, you get damage reflected per 1% armor mitigation. So we're going to be stacking up a bunch of strength because it scales all of our skills, and it gives us that flat reflected, which becomes flat damage for shield throw. And then shield throw also gets scaled by block chance. Hit steal more damage equal to a portion of your block chance. Hit steal more damage equal to a portion of your block chance. This one, the downside looks bad, but you have reduced all resistances while shield throw is released. But what I've learned before was that apparently this only counts if you're actually casting shield throw yourself. Stygian's Reprisal doesn't actually cast it, it just throws out a shield throw for free. So that apparently doesn't count, so you are just going to get that 100% of block chance as more damage for free. You also get crit multi per block effectiveness, and then, I don't know, the rest of it gives, Colossus gives us a generic, damage, so there's some utility there. We get to take additional bounces for the mana cost because it doesn't cost us mana. Can get Frenzy from it. I mean, it's just, like, good stuff. Oh, notably, I probably should take a point. I learned about a tech with Ring of Shields at some point where you take this Steel Defender, it can target allies, and then it bounces around from your Ring of Shields to deal a bunch of damage, like just bouncing around you. So I should probably take that, but I don't know. Yeah. And then obviously you take Ring of Shield because block stuff. You take Symbols of Hope because regen and block stuff and increase damage, and because we don't have a lot of good options for support skills. Get some... I don't think we actually need this mana regen anymore now that I know about the... Yeah, okay, so you can take this out and then put points into... I don't know. Maybe you do, like... No, I don't have enough points for that. It doesn't really matter. Block effectiveness, get symbols faster, or whatever. Also, the Orient Sun Seals aren't necessary anymore because you automatically get the sigils for free. Or the symbols. They reworked it. It's not called Sigils of Hope anymore. It's called Symbols of Hope. And you get it automatically. So this isn't as necessary as it would have been last patch, where it would have been annoying to have to press the button all the time. That said, it gets you them faster. It gets you some levels in it. Although, as you've seen, maybe we don't actually need those levels anymore. And... it makes it auto-proc itself if you lose too much health, so that's nice. The actual active now is activate to consume them, and then you gain ward and less damage taken per symbol. So, okay, that's some defenses. Cool. And then if we use at least one of these, we don't have to deal with actually hitting the button. Other than that, the rest of the gear is like, again, maybe it is correct to do Leech plus Titan's Harp, but I really like the Last Bear stuff, so Last Bear, we're doing health regen stuff. Nothing special going on here, just, regen and things. So that's one version. Another version... What was I doing here? Why did I have two versions? I actually don't know. Okay, ignore this one. Okay, and then... Okay, actually, we'll put this first because it's slightly more sensible. So this idea came from, again, me asking the question of, like, what the hell is this... Rive skill, this Rive weapon specialist, the fizz part supposed to be, right? When the hell do you want to scale flat fizz with Rive per dexterity with a sword? Like, I was really struggling to find any kind of synergy that made sense. And I'm not still convinced that this makes any sense, but it's something. So you stack dex, you get the fizz damage on Rive, and then you run this new weapon, Scissors of Atropos. You gain a stack of this buff every time you melee attack, up to 8 stacks, and then when you use a throwing attack, you consume the stacks to gain buffs. Cool. So throwing attacks scale with dexterity. They also scale with strength, so like that's why I'm not convinced that this actually makes that much sense, because we could just be doing strength instead, but maybe we do both. Maybe we put strength and dex into the build. Okay, that's something. And of course we can, in Forge Guard, we're in Forge Guard because of Iron Reflexes again, so the dex actually does something for us beyond just the damage. And then skill-wise, I picked Shield Throw, but maybe Shield Throw isn't correct. I don't know. Maybe you could use Javelin. I don't think you use Hammers, because Hammers is like one of those things you want to just spam a lot, but this weapon clearly wants you to be using one big throwing attack and then going back to meleeing, so I guess Shield Throw or Javelin would fit that, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it is just Javelin. I don't even know. I guess Shield Throw is also sort of meant to be spammed at low mana cost and 0 cost. Although if we do Shield Throw, we also get to run Stygian's Reprisal again, so that's something. Also, then I do stuff like Riverbend Grasp to throw axes on hit, and axe thrower to throw axes on hit. Honestly, these are probably not actually even good ideas, because it's not like this is going to help with scissors. Actually, I don't even. I'm assuming they don't consume it, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're actively griefing us, or maybe we get to just not have to press the button. I don't know. Whatever. So this is a build. I mean, you probably don't do the throwing axe stuff just so that you can use a real glove here. And hey, maybe then you get to use Last Bear again. Anyway, and I guess technically we're doing throwing attacks. You could do smite as well, but I don't know. It's not like the smite's going to be doing much damage. It's just there for support. Okay, and then the last idea is just the dumbest of the bunch, and I'm like least sure if I can get it to work, but I like the idea, so I'm just gonna throw it out there. Also, this planner is very wrong. This is like from when I assumed that I'll quickly explain it, and then so I wanted to use the Ruby Fang set, which is you get some poison chance on melee hits and fire hits, so we want to use a fire melee attack ideally. And then the set bonus is 1% melee poison chance per uncapped fire res. So initially I thought that forged weapons would be able to abuse this, but it turns out that they don't actually get the set bonus, so it's kind of pointless. So yeah, ignore all the forged weapon related stuff. Although we might still be using Forge Strike, but not for the forged weapons. But basically the theory behind doing this in Sentinel, even though the problem is there's no actual poison damage support in Sentinel. But what it does have is this node, Osprix Bane. You get Ellie res with a shield, so we're running a shield. And then you get less fire damage taken per point of overcapped fire res up to a maximum, whatever. I mean, so we're going to be long past that maximum, so there's only so much this makes sense, but it is something you can do with the fire res, right? Nobody else really either gets a bunch of fire res or gets something to do with the fire res that isn't just stacking the poison or the poison chance. So that's the theory. We have melee fire attacks, and we have a way to actually make use of the fire res. That's the idea. So in terms of skills, there are a few ways that you could go with this. I mean, I think you always run just Healing Hands because it's another free proc melee fire attack for free procs of the poison. But beyond that, I'm less sure. Like, there was the idea to run Forge Strike, which isn't actually a fire attack, but it is melee, so it's going to get at least part of the benefit. But the main reason for doing this is this node, Bellows. Ailments inflicted by Forge Strike deal increased damage over time equal to your increased stun chance. So maybe we stack up stun chance, and then that makes our poison deal more damage. We actually just... Oh, wait. Why didn't I take this? Whatever. Again, the planners are never really super good. But... increased stun... Yeah, I think I might have had just a different version. It doesn't matter. When you take the health regen, you also get stun chance. So there we go. And then maybe we would do Last Bear. Oh, right. The whole original idea here was the Sunforge set, the Forged Weapon thing. You get this health regen per Forged Weapon. So the idea was going to be that an armor per Forged Weapon. Wait, why? Oh, no. That was the original idea behind looking into doing the Shattered Lance on Sentinel. But... whatever, that didn't really bear out, and I don't think, and now that I know that Forged Strike doesn't really, or the forged weapons don't really work, I don't think I would do this. I think it would just be Last Bear again. So that's the idea. It's like I said, it's very, very questionable, but like it's a cool idea, right? It's using a thing that clearly, the thing is, I don't actually know precisely what this set was intended to be used for. It's kind of just, I don't know, like, here. The one other thing that I think might make sense to use the set for, like what it's probably intended for, is... Here we go, Falconer. The very specifically, boom, boom, Cinder Strike. It's a fire melee attack, and you get poison chance from all sources converted to ignite chance. So I think this is what made sense. Oh, also you get where is it? Oil coating gets you where's the fire res? Oh, here we go. This also gives you fire res. So this synergies make sense for this. This is like, I think, the one legitimate use for this set. But it feels like a cop out, right? Like the set's like doing poison stuff, and then and it's supposed to be weird because it's like you're using fire things to make poison stuff happen. That's unusual. So to just turn the poison into ignite chance is like that's too easy, right? Like, why? You know, that's boring. But if you really want to use the set, this is probably how you're supposed to do it. So that's it for now. I'm not 100% sure what I'm actually going to be playing first. Ideally, I want to try out most of these, but I'm playing COF, so I'm not going to be able to just grab whatever uniques I want. I'm going to have to see what drops, so I'm going to be playing some kind of Sentinel leveling builds up until the point where I start finding some of the items I'm interested in. I think the most likely one that I'm going to end up playing first is the Phalanx build, just because besides it seeming like the most sensible one, I think it's also the one that requires the least specific gear. Like the Stygian's Reprisal you can get starting level 35, and Phalanx you can get starting level 40. So like I could practically like level the back half of my campaign with this, right? If I get lucky and find them. And, you know, maybe use Rune of Ascendance. Are there even that many unique spears? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, there's 12 of them. I guess, I don't know. I mean, maybe. But I don't think it's crazy to think maybe I'll be able to get it on Rune Ascendance. Also, COF, I'll just take some, like, unique two-handed weapon prophecies and hopefully get this. The shield. How many unique shields are there? There's 18 of them? Okay, so that's a lot less likely. That said, I think the way I would imagine leveling this build is you can kind of go in steps, right? Because initially you're not going to be able to do the whole thing, right? You're not going to be able to proc stuff. So I think the most reasonable way of going about this is you start out with either Vengeance or Javelin. I'm leaning towards Vengeance just because then I can use any two-handed weapon. Hell, I can use any weapon, but ideally a two-handed weapon because that makes the swaps easier. Because then when I just drop the Phalanx, I'm already good, right? I'm already using Vengeance. I now have my weapon and it works with what I'm using, and then I spec into Javelin, and boom, I have that part of the build. And then the shield throw part, like, I guess hypothetically I could do shield throw, but until I get to the end of the Forge Guard tree and get Forge Master Smite, I'm not going to then be able to add in the two-handed weapon for Phalanx. So if I drop the Phalanx and I've been doing shield throw, I'm not going to easily be able to fit that in until I get this. So I think it's Vengeance or Javelin, leaning towards Vengeance, but maybe Javelin's stronger, I don't know. And then I move into shield throw. And I think that's like a very reasonable way to like build up a build if you don't want to just like say force a generic leveling build and then, you know, swap much later. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do that or not. I think I probably will try to just level with this, and if it really doesn't seem like it's working out, maybe I'll just do a leveling build until I find the stuff I'm interested in. We'll see. But that'll do it for now. You know, looking forward to the patch soon. Hope people have fun with it. Maybe you've been inspired by this video and you'll, you know, maybe do something with this. I'd love to hear if anyone actually had ideas to make any of these builds work better, while keeping the spirit of the build. Like, obviously there's some stuff you could do where it just would be making it better, but it wouldn't really be the build anymore. But if you have something interesting to suggest, let me know. Anyway, goodbye.